We've all been there, not being able to make our videos look the way we want to, struggling with the lighting and how to make your subject or space look good on camera. So how can you quickly and easily light your video to get a more cinematic look? Well, it doesn't have to be difficult, and we're going to talk through it in this video. Just before we set the lights up in the room and create the look that we are after, I just want to draw a quick diagram so you can visualize exactly what it is I'm going to be doing. So here is my camera behind my desk, and here is me talking to my camera. Over on this wall here, I have a window. We're going to need to block all of the natural daylight out of here. We'll talk about that in a moment. But then I have three main lights, and one of them is here, slightly 45 degrees towards my face, and this is my main key light. I also have another one in this corner here, and that's going to point light towards my shoulder, and another one just about here, again in the background pointing light towards my shoulder. So the main setup that we're going to use uses three lights in this room. All right, so we're going to take this room, which is where I film all of my YouTube videos, and we're going to turn it into something that looks a bit more pleasing on the eye, because as you can see at the moment, it looks pretty dreadful. We're just using the main light in the room at the top of the ceiling. It's very orangey, tungsten-y color, but we're going to change that. We're going to make it look great in here. So the very first thing we're going to do is block out all of the natural light. Now, yes, it is kind of going dark outside here. At the moment, it's pretty grey and rainy, but we still want to block all of that light out. So I'm going to pull down this blind. This is just a cheap blind from IKEA. And the reason I do that is because it then gives me full control over the lighting in this room without any natural light at all. So we don't have any sun popping in and out behind the clouds, changing the lighting situation in the room. It is completely under my control now. And the last thing I'm going to do before I switch on any other lights is I'm going to turn off this light so it is completely dark in here. Then once we've done that, I'm going to turn on my main key light, and the key light that I use is the Aputure Amaran 100X, and attached to the Aputure Amaran I have the Light Dome SE, and I didn't buy that light dome because it has my initials on it. That's just a coincidence. But attached to the light dome, I also have the grid attached to it, and we'll talk more about that in just a moment. If you're interested, I will also link all of the gear that I'm using in this video down below, so you can go and check it out if you would like to. So the key light is going to be the main light that you use to light your subject, and in this case I have my key light at about a 45-degree angle from me. So you can see on this side of my face I have just a nice shadow. It's slightly darker than where the main light is coming from, and I get a kind of triangle of light just on my left cheek. This style of lighting is called Rembrandt lighting. Just as a very quick example, as I spin round on my chair here, you can see the difference that lighting makes. So this is the angle I was talking to you from before, about a 45-degree angle from the light, and we get a nice soft shadow on this side of my face. We get a little bit of a triangle of light on my cheek here, but as I turn round so the light is very side onto me, we get even more of a dramatic shadow on this side of my face. And then as I spin round to directly face the light, you can see how much flatter my face looks. So the lighting setup has a huge effect on the mood you are trying to create in your videos, and it's all about just messing around to get the desired look that you are after. Quick little pro tip for you is to always set your main key light and your camera to the same white balance. That just means you're going to get the most natural look and lighting on your subject. So my key light is set to 5600 Kelvin, and in my camera I have my white balance set to 5600 Kelvin as well, so they are both matching. And I'm using the Lumix S5 II, which is super easy to control your white balance on. You can fully customize it however you want to. However, that is also the case on all other cameras as well. But being able to match your key light with your camera white balance, super important, and it will just make for a great looking image and make it even easier when you come to grade your footage. The softbox and grid that I have on my key light also play a huge part in the final look of the image. If I was to take the softbox off, for example, you can see that the light is incredibly harsh and it creates huge dramatic shadows, which might suit for some situations depending on what you are trying to film. But for instances like this where I'm creating a talking head video on YouTube, I just want a nice soft light so it's nice and easy on the eye to watch the video. And the grid on top of the softbox just helps to isolate that light even more around your subject, in this case me. And that just means that any light from the softbox isn't being thrown around the room. If I was to take the grid off, the rest of the room would be filled with soft light as well. And I just want to isolate that towards me to help create a little bit more depth from the background. So you could just leave it like that and continue to just use the one light to light your videos because it does look good. However, as you can see, because I have a black top on and the background is pretty dark as well because there's no other lights in this room, I'm sort of blending into the background. So what I'm going to do is add in some lights in the background. So I have two here, one in this corner and one in this corner, and you could class these as backlights or rim lights, but the way I'm using them is just to fill in some space behind me. And what it does is it helps just add a little bit of a rim around my shoulder, and when I'm sat down you can see it around my hair as well, and it creates a little bit more depth in the image just to help separate me as a subject from the background, and it just makes it look a little bit more interesting as well. Now, as with the main key light as well, don't forget that these lights that you use in the background will have an effect on the mood and the style of the image that you are trying to achieve. So don't be afraid to mess around with different light intensities, different colors, different positions to create and shape the light in the way that you want for your videos. Now, the bulbs I'm using in these are the Aperture B7Cs. So I can, as with the main key light, with being an Aperture Amaran, I can control it with the same app, change all of the colors, the color temperatures, and just achieve something that might suit a style of video that I'm going for. And the final thing that I do just to help create a nice soft cinematic looking image is I add on a mist filter, and the one I use is the Tiffin Black Pro Mist, and I do actually have it on right now, so I'm just going to take it off for a second. You should instantly be able to see the difference that it makes by taking this little filter off, and it is only subtle, but if you look closely around the lights and the highlights, you can see that we get a nice bloom effect around the light, and it will also soften the highlights as well. As great as digital cameras are, mirrorless cameras are now, the image can be incredibly sharp, and sometimes it's just nice to soften it down just a little bit. It makes it a little bit more pleasing on the eye, a little bit more cinematic. I keep saying the word cinematic, no one really knows what it means. It can mean a whole different bunch of things. I always think the mist filter just adds something a little bit extra to the image. It just helps take that image quality to the next level, and 95% of the time I will shoot all of my videos with a mist filter. I love it. It looks great. And that is it. It doesn't have to be any more difficult than that. So I have 3 main lights, my key light, and 2 backlights or rim lights. You can position them all wherever you want to. You can add in extra things like candles and little feature, oh, that one's gone off. Little feature lights like that, just to highlight things in the background if you want to. It all depends on what you're trying to make. Go and have fun with it, experiment, play around with different things, and have fun with it, because that's what it's all about. And now you know exactly how you can quickly and easily light your scene and subject. Maybe you want to learn a little bit more about exposure, and you can do that by watching this video here.